Hi, Steve. How are you doing? Happy Friday.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well, and welcome to Rise Podcast. So glad to have you. We finally figured out the time to do so.
I know. Thanks for having me.
So, folks, Steve and I have known each other for a little while, and I'm really, really impressed by Steve's background and enjoy every time and that we end up meeting and having discussions about all kinds of things. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to have Steve and learn from his experience. Steve is currently a Deputy CIO at Bill.com, leading IT strategy and operations for over 3,000 employees. Steve, is that correct? Or are you bigger than that?
Contractors and employees is over 3,000.
Yeah.
Company's roughly 2,500 employees.
Yeah. And I think one of the most things I was fascinated about, Steve, getting to know over time is you're very hands-on and strategic. That is a very rare combination that I've seen in leaders at your scale. So I have questions on that. One of the most amazing things I learned that you also are a director of operations at California Air National Guard, which I had no idea, which we have not talked about. And I believe you're leading missions in space and cyber and intelligence. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm the A3 for the 195th Wing. So we're responsible for current and future operations for space, cyber, and intel, and also
Wow.
combat communications.
That sounds really, really cool, Steve.
It sounds a lot cooler than it is, but yes, it's fun.
And you have had a lot of experience working with very large organizations, your leadership roles at Palo Alto, Antivo. And like I said, it's just very interesting to see and get to talk to you, bringing both hands-on and strategic view to technology. So looking forward to learn from you more, Steve. And I think the question comes back, you have such an extensive career. Was there a moment in your career where you realized that IT could shape the business instead of just running systems, running or providing laptops to the employees?
Yeah, I would say that we've seen technology evolve. And in the beginning, you're right. We were just keeping systems running, helping them with their laptops and so forth. But I think it was in my last company that I started to see that we could directly influence the productivity of employees. Technology started evolving. A lot of things started to go to SaaS. But our decisions on what tools we picked and how they worked together, and also how complex we made it, was directly affecting our employees. So I'd say when I realized that probably somewhere around 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago is when that really I started seeing the difference. And now more than ever, we're starting to see it. Now it's a completely different ballgame. I think IT is playing a big part. Their day to day and how they interact with their customers, how they sell, everything is affected by what IT does these days.
What are your top three key strategic priorities to make those changes?
Well, I still am a fan of simplicity. And when I say that is you try to pick the right tools. Now, there are times when you want to have the latest technologies, and so you'll make exceptions, but for smaller groups, not across the company. I can give examples. So you can have your engineering group have both Lovable, Cursor, and Firebase, all to be trying the latest things to make sure they're staying, moving as fast as possible. But so I'd say simplicity is number one. That customer service, being able to put yourself in the shoes of the employees and understand where they're coming from is key. I'd say that's number two. And then the last one, now these are not in any specific order. I say speed is the most important, one of the most important things. If you're not moving fast in IT, then you're failing.
Interesting way to look at it. As you touched on customer service, that is you serving your customers within the organization, right? So, and you're sitting at the core, and I think as your role is becoming more and more broader now, not just servicing IT needs for the organization, but being a strategic partner now for different departments and help them bring AI. How are you managing the daily demands, the very operational needs in IT, and then more strategic role of bringing AI to different parts of the business, which may not be as automated as IT today?
This is changing so fast that I think anyone who says that they feel they're doing a really good job at it is I'd love to meet that person. I feel like we're always behind, but I think the key is to be always learning what's new out there trying out new things, working with your customers to understand what their needs are. You can we've tried many different things when it comes to educating people on AI and other tools. And what we've learned is that there is no one quick way of training the entire company in a specific tool. They have very unique specific needs. So you have to meet individually with those organizations to really get the best out of it. Now, how do we balance this need for AI and everyone wanting all these tools? We've done various different things. We've definitely recruited leadership from across the company to help us with that, so that we're not trying to fight that battle on our own. So if somebody comes to us, they have to have had approval, of course, from their folks first. That way, we know that they've done some due diligence, that it's not just someone in the company saying, "Hey, I'd like this new tool that just came out," or "I heard this company is using this. Can we try it?" It needs to be first approved within their organization. And then at that point, it has to fall within, uh, if we've already got tools like and our tools do the majority of the work, if not all of it, the answer most likely is going to be no. But in some cases, we will make exceptions. AI is the one exception to these days. Is we're trying different products because we want our employees to be the fastest, and we believe if they all are utilizing AI, then we will be able to compete better with with either our competitors or any other company out there if everyone is using AI as much as possible.
And Steve, how do you think about build versus buy in AI? I talk, different leaders like yourself, and I see at different stages. Some are very like, no, we want to try ourselves. 6 months later, see the change in the messaging. So, what are your thoughts, and what are your thoughts for the startups who are reaching out to you or other leaders? How to even message and approach this battle?
I think you're seeing that for a very good reason out there, where people start one direction and they change very quickly. And in fact, I think the one of the most famous, it'll go down as one of the most famous articles, was that MIT article that said 95% of projects, AI projects, are not producing any type of revenue. Well, but if you read into that article a little bit more, they give you some, so they have a good wealth of information on why it failed. And they even said in there that you need to partner very closely with your vendors, or so that you can provide or so that you can get the best outcomes. If you think that creating agents and an orchestration and an MCP and skills is easy, you have some learning ahead of you. This is not an easy task. It takes a lot of people, and in some cases, just like at Bill, we're doing it ourselves. But in other cases, it makes more sense to partner with vendors like yourself to do things that you've spent a lot of time and people to perfect. Otherwise, we'd have to have an army of people in every single area, and that's not going to work.
So, what is your advice, Steve, for startups who go 6 months early before that realization? Building, even with the talent, is the hard part. It's when even a lot of startups are just struggling with finding good AI talent. It's very hard for companies to go find and attract AI talent because every AI talent is going to do their own AI startup.
It's true. It used to be, to start up a company, you needed a decent amount of people. Now you can start a company with very few. VCs are saying that this is the big trend and change that they've noticed recently. And with that said, you're going to see a lot of companies. I'm a firm believer is there needs to be a competitive advantage between build and buy. If you really see that competitive advantage, then yes, building may be the right decision because you can customize it, make it perfect for your area. But if there is no competitive advantage to it, then buying is probably going to be a lot cheaper. You're not going to be supporting the product. You're not going to be needing a team of people to patch it, update it, and everything else. So that's one way of that I approach it. But when it comes to AI, as I said, most people have created prompts. And if you've created prompts, you start to see that it's not that easy, meaning you can quickly see prompt rot and other things. You have to be very careful with prompt injections when it comes to, hackers and so forth. There's a lot of guardrails that you have to put in place. So with that all said, it takes time. You have to be knowing when you go into this that this is going to take time. It's going to pay off in the long run, but it's going to take time. And again, going back to what I said, If there's no competitive advantage, you should go with somebody that you know will partner very closely with you, where you can be design partners. This is the year of design partners, meaning if you think that people have figured it all out and it's going to be pretty every single time, it's not. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. But if you have faith in the company and the people leading the company and you partner closely with them, you can have great results.
You highlight a very good point and a framework for even us to think about, Steve, that even as AI startup, they will need tools, right? Like, is it adding to my competitive advantage? So it's not a binary choice. It's a excellent framework because even as we think about building startup or general, like my friends who are building startups, like, hey, where to use the best AI tools versus trying to do it ourselves because we have this perception that we can create applications very quickly, and that's not a true statement. Once you start using any of these vibe coding tools, you get to learn the reality very quickly, how bad it is.
Yes, that's the key thing too. When you get into it is when you truly realize how hard it actually is and how time consuming it is. But look, LLMs are a commodity at this point. It's what you do with these LLMs that are truly going to make you stand apart. But with that said, you don't need to do it all. A leader of mine once said a long time ago that the best employees know that they don't have to do everything themselves. And the same thing goes for these companies. If you try to do everything yourself, you're going to be slow or you're going to fail. If there are certain components that you just don't care about and your bread and butter, let's say you've perfected a new way of doing storage. Okay, great. Well, that should be your bread and butter, not maybe the hardware or other things that just don't matter. How you transit the data and so forth. Just go with somebody who's already done a really good job with it. So I think you really need to remind yourself when it comes to build versus buy, where's the competitive advantage? Because you'll save a lot of time and money if you stick to that.
That's a fantastic point, Steve. I think the other key point you touch on year of design partnerships, and that's a very thoughtful comment because I see there are two things. There are a lot of AI startup and there's a lot of talent because there's so many changes in recent times that even though people worked on AI for a very long time, a lot of people do not have experience with LLMs. There's roughly the same amount of average experience across the board. So it's very hard to say somebody have 20 years of LLM or agentic experience. You may have model building experience, and that will certainly help building applications. But when we take people who are the smartest in the category, they tend to not have domain expertise. And then you have organizations who have domain expertise, whether it's insurance, finance, right? So there are these two silos that exist today, right? How do you think about when startups are coming which do not have domain expertise? How do we bridge the gap, especially early on? Once they have 10 to 20 customers in a domain, they can actually be helpful and take an advisory capacity. But early on, we're like, Steve, please help us.
It's something very similar to even internally. I'm a big fan of citizen developership. And the reason that I am is I don't know facilities better than the facilities team. I don't know HR better than the HR team. And the list goes on and on. If I can enable them with the products to make them successful, put the right guardrails in place, then they will be very successful. The same thing comes for you all. You've perfected the technology, but each company is going to be slightly different. So when you're looking for a good company to work with or purchase, look at who you're working with. Are they passionate about this area? Do they truly know it really well? Do they know your business very well? They don't need to know your business very well. That's for you to help them with and become design partners because like I said, no one's done this. And these agents are very specific to unique things. If you try to make an agent that does it all, we've already seen it takes a very, very long time and it's destined to fail. The smaller the agents, the better they are. And that means they're going to be very unique to your use cases. So it's better to be a design partner with them and know that it's not going to be pretty when it first comes out. But at the end, you're going to be high-fiving each other because it's going to be great.
Yeah, we need leaders just like you, Steve, who see that vision. I think you also touch upon a point, key technical point on universal agents versus these small agents, right? The part of customization, Steve, is very interesting, right? So if you see most startups avoid customization because they want to scale. And then because they want to raise money, they want to say, oh, my margins are very, very high because look at this, like it's very repeatable across every customers. But every enterprise I talk to, Steve, and even from my experience, is different. And I don't know how that cookie cutter approach would work in enterprise
It
environment,
won't. It
right?
won't. And that's why AI is so prevalent now, why everyone wants it. It used to be you couldn't do anything with unstructured data. You just looked at it and went, well, where can I find the structured data within this area and automate that piece? Now, for the first time, we can look at unstructured data and actually get outcomes from it. So, with that said, that's what makes sense now to partner with a company to go after. Like you said, every company is different. And that's true. I used to, people have asked me for advice in the past on how to structure their teams, how to lead their IT teams. I said, I'm not there with you. So I can I can look at how what's important, what's not important, but every company is going to be slightly different. If it was cookie cutter, there'd be a notebook or a IT for dummies and anybody could do it. And I'm not saying that anyone can't do it. What I'm saying is that if you want to do it right, you have to there's going to be customizations and very, let's call it, specific needs that people have that you have to address to be successful. And that's where that unstructured data and companies like you and others that are really focused on helping with that can really make a difference, because the rest of it, the structured data stuff, people have already figured it out.
And one important point, Steve, I think my opinion on one of this is like customer service becomes most important in the world of AI. I think more than ever, when people are saying, "Oh, here are a bunch of agents, Steve and team can go figure it out," I just don't see it happening. Am I mistaken, Steve? And you and your team is very technical, right? As far as I know, right? But it's like, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. I do think that this is the era of sharing, meaning within a company. I'll give you one example. We're a big Glean customer and Gemini customer. We're creating gems and sharing with them with each other. We're creating agents in Glean and sharing with them with each other. And what's happening is I'm noticing that repository is growing. And people are sharing ideas. But it's rare that an agent that you take does exactly what you need. So what they're doing is they take that agent and then they make it their own. They slightly modify it, but you don't have to start from scratch. So I think we're evolving right now. I don't know what the end result is going to be. I think we all are trying to guess what that's going to be. But the more you have your company using these, the more you're involved with design partners and so forth, the faster you're going to grow. Now, who knows? In a year or two from now, there could be a light switch with one agent that does it all. I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, and I think one way to think about this also, Steve, is it's probably for the first time we can have personalization of software for enterprise at scale with the software capabilities that we have, because it was just not possible. You had these very, very long implementation cycles with some of the incumbents, right? Like you pay more for implementing the software than you paid for the software. And I can tell you, I can't name names, but through my bullshit experience, we bought like one very expensive software and I paid more over the years, always.
And sometimes they take a year or longer to implement. And is the juice worth the squeeze at that point? And this is why a lot of companies are not switching from products anymore. Once they have something, the competitors are so close, they're not willing to switch over. It's not worth it. And that goes back to what you were saying. What are you doing outside of the norm so that really stands apart? If you can get to 30 to 40 or maybe even 50% deflection today, how are you going to get to that 70 or 80% deflection? That's going to be the differentiator. And that's where you're going to have to partner very closely, because it's going to probably be very unique to your company.
So, Steve, other than the tech, I mean, you're deep down in tech, but getting to know you, you're a huge people person, right? How have you built? Everybody I've talked to around you, like, have sung huge praises about your leadership style. So, what are the core principles? How have you built team? And you talked about citizenship development. How do you think about growing your team in an environment where, I don't know, 50% of startups is like, Steve, hey, you don't need your team. And like, it's like a very terrible messaging that they do. So how do you make them feel comfortable? How are you growing them? And what is your thought for broader IT community?
I I think I'm fortunate too. and you probably wouldn't have thought this maybe a few years ago, but we have a very small team. And with that said, I think we have an opportunity to continue staying lean and gritty, but leveraging tools to do more with that. But for even for teams, the way I build my teams is I look for people who are doers. I don't look for people who love to explain a problem to me. I don't need you to explain the problem. I just need you to fix the problem or solve it before it even gets to me. So I'm looking for doers, but I look for people that put themselves in the shoes of their customer, be it the employees or be it our customers. We're creating agents on my team also for our customers. We're partnering with different vendors to build agents and all different types of things. But you have to be willing to put yourself in the shoes of the customer to really understand it. And I think that goes also for even across the board. When you say you talk to people I know, I always try to put myself in their shoes. Where are they coming from? Somebody could be having a bad day. You don't have to hate the guy or the lady because they were having a bad day. Everybody has a bad day. You didn't get much sleep. There's many things that could contribute to it. So understanding the potential is usually there for anyone to provide a lot of great value in the organization and guide them and help them. Many times they might need a little bit of hand holding in the beginning, but that little bit of hand holding can really take off. So the building the team, I always look for those people that are very adaptable and gritty and then can and really are not scared to work hard and work long, but get along with each other. I have a saying, no smart a-holes in my team. Okay. So I'd rather you be someone that can learn and not be an a-hole to somebody. And then the team will work much better together.
And Steve, how are you communicating and growing your team now in current environment where half the startups want to just reduce your staff by half or more, right?
I don't believe that's the right approach. In fact, I was at a leadership conference not that long ago. I got the honor to meet Condoleezza Rice, and she even said, "We're not developing enough engineers in this country. Other countries are developing more and more engineers. We're not." We know that the AI hype cycle is high right now. It's going to come down. It's going to come down to a normal mode. Right now, everyone thinks AI is going to solve every problem tomorrow. But with that said, that doesn't mean grow your team like mad. That means take the team you have, provide them the tools to produce even more. They shouldn't be doing the minuscule things. But I'm also seeing a pendulum shift in a way. When we first started seeing AI, it was I would give it 3 bullets and create me a document for my boss or something. And it would create this massive document. And then what does my boss do? He takes it and he uses the Gemini summary, summarize this thing into 3 bullets,
Yeah.
you know? So what we're noticing is simplicity. I'm going back to the very first thing that I first said. We're going to eventually realize that we don't need these long, lengthy documents with a lot of fluff and unneeded stuff. We need to get straight to the point to move fast. Fast is still the number one thing, simplicity and speed. And so I think we're seeing a shift now, even from a calibrations. If I know that this person did great at these 3 things and not good at these 2 things, and I create this large calibration document that sounds amazing, what's my employee going to do? They're going to say, summarize this thing for me. I think we're going to go straight to, hey, give me just 3 bullets based on my interactions with this person and help me create the document, but keep it simple and sweet. So we're starting to see shifts. This is continuing to evolve, and we're going to continue to see that. But if we don't find ways to simplify things, especially in this time, if I ask you to read a 5-page paper at the beginning of every meeting, I think we're going to move too slow. We need to find ways to move faster with the people we have while we try to grow our engineers and produce more engineers in this country.
Every time I talk to you, you're always up to date on current trends. So what do you do and what does your team do to stay updated and how you're personally growing? And what is your advice, Steve, for, that people who are trying to be next you, right? And get to your role, and especially in the environment of AI.
That one, it's a mixture of things. Of course, I start my day off by reading the news and reading what new technology is coming out. Then
Where do you go?
of
What do you read,
course,
Steve?
I'm a Google Mail guy. and I've subscribed to a lot of things. So it's simple, it's free for the most part. But then after that, I would say I also try to attend a lot of dinners and so forth that where people are talking about new technology. I do meet with a lot of companies, a lot of startups, just to listen. Some are still in stealth and so forth. So I'm learning how these things are evolving. And then I also have team members that are uh, doing research as well, and especially my security team, they're looking at what are the new ways of people exploiting these things. I mean, some of the way they're doing prompt injections is I would have never thought of that. And we have to be thinking of all these things and leveraging also technology to help us protect ourselves in the future. So I wish there was an easy way of doing it. I spend a lot of time reading on the internet and meeting with people to know what's happening, but I also enjoy it. I think that's probably why I'm able to do a lot of it and not get burnt out, if you want to say.
So yes, see, you stay very busy. So what would be your recommendation who do not have access to the nice dinners that you go to or to as many startups, right? Like somebody who is an IT manager, usually startups are not going to them early on.
I would say leverage AI for
Mm,
that.
I see.
Ask AI to provide you with that.
Interesting. Yeah.
You know, people used to use JetBrains and all these different tools, LinkedIn Learnings. A lot of this is at your fingertips today. If you want to know what's latest happening, I also do the same thing. I ask ChatGPT, what are the latest technologies in these specific areas and what are we seeing? What are the trends? And it provides a lot of it's out there. These companies are not holding back on what they're doing. And ChatGPT will go out there and find it for you. And if you get a really good prompt, you could probably have a daily read that would just be on what latest thing came out in your field that you're interested in. That would be my suggestion.
That's super helpful, Steve. This has been great. I think we'll shift the gears to really, quick answers, formats. I have like 4 or 5 questions for you, very quick ones. The IT group or community that you've learned the most.
I belong to a lot of CIO groups. I would say the ones that really put the networking at the top, those tend to be the best. SICE does a pretty good job of that. Ivanta does a pretty good job of that. SIM does a pretty good job of that. And I know all of those have different levels. You don't have to be a CIO in many of those. So my recommendation would be try to go to those if you can, but really focus on the networking part, not the sales pitches.
I see. Got it. You got it. Second question, mentor or peer who had the most influence on your leadership style?
I've had a few, and I'll tell you, some were in the military. I had a gunnery sergeant that just had a very pragmatic way of looking at things, very common sense approach, but respectful the same way, but yes, very disciplined. Leaders in the IT world, I have to say Sanjay Chandra was one of my favorites. He showed me that way of making people like coming to work, but working really hard. And but there's been so many. I could list a lot of them. Mark McLaughlin was another great inspiration and great leader that I still call to this day.
First place you go to when you're stuck on a tech or a process challenge.
Well, these days, a lot of it is ChatGPT.
Which
I
is your
mean,
favorite, ChatGPT or Claude?
I use them for different things. Claude has a much better way of doing human written, but ChatGPT has a much faster way of summarizing and giving me bullet points or creating artistic things.
And one last question, Steve. What is your favorite TV show that is not tech?
That's not tech.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
shows.
I have favorites that I watch a lot, especially to wind down at the end of the day, and I've seen them a million times. I love The Office, I love Seinfeld, and I love Parks and Rec. Those are to wind down. If I had to pick something that I'm looking forward to, Stranger Things, the last season is coming, and The Witcher. I'm looking forward to that one as well. So I'd say those are my favorites.
Thank you for sharing, Steve. It has been phenomenal talking to you. It's absolute always a learning session. And I hope others feel the same. And thanks for finding the time. Look forward to having more such discussions.
Same here. I'm so happy that you had me, and I love working with your team. It's great to see all the new technology that you all are developing, and I look forward to seeing more.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.